Abigail Kima is a youth climate activist from Kenya. She's also an expert on clean energy and currently serves as the Africa Youth Lead for the Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary. What's really remarkable is that she's only 24 years of age. Abigail is also the producer and host of Hali Hewa, a popular podcast featuring African climate stories, and she now joins me in the studio. It's good to see you. Now, Hali Hewa, that's my first piece of Swahili. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Fantastic. So I'm a fluent Swahili speaker now. But look, let's start with that conversation about the podcast. That title, what exactly does it mean and how did it come about? What's the story behind it?
So Hali Hewa, which is, I shortened it, it's supposed to be Hali Hewa, is Swahili for climate. So it's a name that is shared for climate and weather, which means for a long time we actually didn't have a word in Swahili for climate change. The story about this name was after COP26, which I attended for the first time. I felt like I was a bit lost and there wasn't a space for me to actually contribute and bring my voice from Africa to the world to, share our own lived experiences of the climate crisis. So when I went back home, I wanted to do a road to COP27, but by January there are hundreds of road to COP27 initiatives, and that's why I went for something that would be relatable to the people I wanted to speak to, especially from Kenya, from the Eastern African region and Africa in general, because we know the African Union adopted Swahili as one of its official languages, so it was important to have conversations in a language and a name that is relatable to the people I want to reach.
But the key thing is that this podcast is allowing Africa's voice to be heard. Now, I referenced in the introduction the Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary. What is it and why do you value it personally?
So Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary is basically a campaign that is aimed at protecting the Arctic sea ice. I know it's strange that I come from Kenya, which is completely far from the Arctic sea ice, but then it also stems from the place of interconnectedness, where one action on one part of the world causes a ripple effect on another, and it's evident that climate change is causing the melting of the ice caps, which is directly affecting our communities back at home. We have Mozambique experiencing cyclones on a yearly basis. We have communities experiencing floods out of such impacts of climate change. So my passion towards it was that I have seen firsthand the impacts of climate change within my community and the countries around Kenya as well. And so it was important to raise our voice and show that in as much as we are far, we are actually interconnected, and that you have to be cautious with what you do because it's affecting people and communities in another part of the world.
Fascinating is that just looking at the work that you've been doing, although you are billed as a youth activist, your message is, hang on a minute, this isn't just a young person's problem, it's also an older person's issue as well. So how are you getting older people on board that they don't feel estranged from the activism which is associated with young people?
So I find it strange when people associate activism with young people only, yet we have activists who are not necessarily young people. And personally, I decided to start this journey out of the inspiration from Wangari Maathai. She was definitely not a young person when she started speaking about environmental conservation, and it came at a time when, we were still living in a very patriarchal society. Nobody had information about what conservation is, why there's an importance of protecting forests in Kenya. And so seeing that she was a woman who had to beat all odds to be who she was quite inspirational for me. And so in these conversations, I think there is nothing that is different. If anything, young people are a mirror to older people where they get to see the places where they failed, where they get to see the impacts of their actions. And so having a conversation that bringing all of us together from different generations ensures that we get different intergenerational viewpoints when it comes to these issues. And I think it's important to have conversations together because our experiences are the same. I mean, we live in the same world. It's not like older people live in a different place. So it's important that, we have these conversations that build us and helps us learn from people who came before us, and so we see what we should do differently that they didn't do before.
As an older person, I find that message incredibly reassuring. But Abigail Kima, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio. Abigail Kima is a youth climate activist from Kenya, a person to watch, a very powerful voice. Thank you so much.